Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Introduce, my name is Khaeriyah Al-Fadhilah with name 20400120085 PBI-C class. In this video, I will explain about using the needs analysis information in the course Curriculum Development and Learning. Using the needs analysis information. Previously, needs inventory was an identification of needs analysis, so the word using refers to two activities. Number one is using needs analysis data to identify needs inventory. Things to include in needs inventory are those in core information available in the questionnaires. And number two, using the needs inventory to formulate goals and objectives. They are formulated based on the identification of needs inventory. In other words, a needs analysis is the basis for goals and objectives formulation. Next is identifying needs inventory. Identifying the needs inventory, two things to do. The first is reviewing the needs identification from core questions or re-identify or review. And the second is putting the overall needs identification into tables of needs inventory or enter all identification needs. Identifying needs inventory. Reviewing the needs identification from core questions. The first is reviewing linguistic needs, emphasizing the student learning ability and learning priorities. And the second is reviewing learning needs, emphasizing the students' learning problems and learning attitudes. As for reviewing the needs identification from core questions of linguistic needs, emphasizing or come back to see and simplify learning ability. Learning ability. The results of analysis of the students' proficiency level in the area of the three speaking components. It is vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. The results of analysis indicate vocabulary. The average score is 1.7 is fair. Pronunciation, the average score is 1.63 is fair. And grammar, the average is 1.44 is poor. Even if the student's grammar average score is fell poor, but the lecturers should not give priority to this component due to the student's tendency to have less attention to learn grammar in speaking course. However, grammar may not totally be ignored in the speaking course. The lecturers should prioritize vocabulary and pronunciation in teaching speaking and be strengthened out by grammar rules after speaking practice in the classroom. Reviewing the needs identification from core questions of linguistic needs, emphasizing or come back to see and simplify learning priorities. Learning priorities, analyzing the respondents' perceptions on the importance level of giving the speaking skills components. It is vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. To speaking course 1, the results of the analysis. Vocabulary. The average score is 3.93 is very important. Pronunciation, the average score is 3.80 is very important. And grammar, the average score is 3.45 is important. The findings above illustrate the first priority to vocabulary enrichment, the second priority to pronunciation drills, the last priority to grammar in each unit or lesson. Reviewing the needs identification from core questions of linguistic needs, the needs for learning vocabulary and pronunciation. Vocabulary and pronunciation are the items of speaking skills. Almost all respondents think it is very important to learn speaking by enriching the students' vocabulary from real life. Topics with average score 3.51. 20 real-life topics were given to the participants So therefore, all the speaking topics should be included since they are considered important or very important for the students to be learned in Speaking Course 1 at the English Education Study Program. Reviewing the needs identification from core questions of linguistic needs in the needs for learning grammar, a variety of grammar items were given to be selected by all the respondents. Next is putting the overall needs identification into tables of needs inventory. In this case, there is a linguistic needs, which includes learning abilities and learning priorities. As for learning needs, which includes the learning problems and the learning attitudes. In the learning attitudes, there are learning preferences with learning styles. After that, the overall needs inventory, linguistic needs and learning needs. And next, formulating goals and objectives from linguistic needs and learning needs. Linguistic needs with learning needs are two types of information. In this case, it is necessary to review the results of the conclusions from data processing and the results of the reviews decided by the topic and all concluded with the results of data processing from the results of gathering information. Need to put theory into this. As for the course goals or aims, to help students communicate effectively and confidently in English by developing the students' vocabulary, pronunciation, and basic grammar. To prepare students have a good basic foundation in speaking, which enables them to communicate everyday situations and topics. Course objectives. Among them are: number 1 is students are able to practice some basic expressions for greeting and farewell when meeting other people to introduce themselves and others, as well as to get and give personal information in informal situations. And number 2, students are able to talk about their families using vocabulary for family members, able to address basic questions for requesting information about family members, as well as able to describe and illustrate family members. And number 3, students are able to use appropriate expressions and vocabulary to tell the time and ask the time in English. And number 4, students are able to ask a daily routine of someone they know and able to talk about their own daily routines. And number 5, students are able to use appropriate expressions when talking about chores at home and identify the responsibilities they normally do at home. And 6, students are able to talk about their leisure time and then to practice speaking about their own free time activities using the phrases they have learned. And 7, students are able to state intention to purchase items, to ask price of items, and to request correct change when incorrect change is received. And number 8, students are able to state clothing needs, including color and size, and to differentiate size by reading text and tape measure. And number 9, students are able to talk about food and to encourage them to discuss their own preferences and attitudes towards food and cooking. And 10, students are able to use appropriate phrases to express future plans and able to state and to talk about their ambitions or dreams for the future. And the last is students are able to identify kinds of jobs, to talk about jobs by asking someone what they do for a living job and answering someone if they ask, and to give a description of jobs and where they work. And the last is the conclusion from the needs study or a needs analysis study. The first is making decision about needs analysis, the number and participant categories and questionnaires. And the second is gathering information of needs analysis data and their interpretations. And the third is using the information of needs analysis, decision on needs inventory, goals, and objectives. The achievement of learning objectives is to understand what a needs analysis is, to know how a needs analysis is carried out, and what are the results of the stage. Maybe that's all I can say, more or less. Please forgive me. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.